Does a lower frame rate increase input lag? Yes, no, kind of. It's complicated, okay? So lower frame rates don't actually increase input lag at all. But your inputs still can lag if there's a low frame rate, and here's why. Video game frame rates are a lot like frame rates in movies. They're a bunch of pictures put back to back, and put together they give you the illusion of motion. Now, stuff can only happen on a frame. Meaning whenever you press a button, the soonest that button is going to do something on screen is the next frame. A lower frame rate just means that there is a bigger chance that you will press a button between frames, which means it will take longer for your action to happen. But you're just as likely to press the button exactly on frame and your action will happen immediately. But that's the problem. It's not the input lag, it's the input variance that makes lower frame rates suck. Increasing the number of frames per second makes the gap between frames shorter and shorter, which means you're less likely to press a button between frames, which means the time between your button and the next frame is minimal, which then reduces variance. And it gets smaller and smaller the higher the frame rate goes. And this is the best case scenario with most modern games. In older games, sometimes if you press the button between frames, it would just drop the input, which is genuinely awful. This was also a problem for games that use frame skip. If they skipped a frame where you performed an input, sometimes the input would just drop. And again, that meant if you had a higher frame rate, you would get fewer dropped inputs. And I'd like to say this isn't an issue anymore, but King of Fighters 15 had that problem on release for the PC. Naughty, naughty, SNK. There's a fanfix in a few days, but still, what the fuck. So yeah, I don't mean to push up the glasses and say I'm actually here. But lag, latency, has to do with the amount of time between pressing a button and having that button's command be processed. That's actually not changing with frame rate. It's just that input variance is changing because with lower frame rates, there's just more time between frames.